This is a condensed history of Tamriel. Tamriel is the main continent that the Elder Scrolls series takes place on. This will be a timeline in chronological order with emphasis placed on the main entries in the series. I aim to put faces on the name because if this is your first time learning about this, it is important to know who's who, as there are many recurring characters or concepts. Tamrielic history is divided into eras. First was the Dawn Era. In the Dawn Era, there started with nothing. There were the original spirits called the Ada. Lorkhan had a plan to create Mundus, the mortal realm. He brought it to the others who gave up some of their divinity to create the world. Those who gave up some of their divinity became the Aedra, the chief of whom being the 8 divines, and those who did not go along with the plan became the Daedra, the chief of whom being the Daedric princes. The last of the Ada escaped the world as it coalesced. They tore holes in the sky, becoming the sun and the stars. Mundus is formed, and the Dawn Era ends. The Merethic Era is named due to the dominance of Mer, or elves. Some of the descendants of the Ada became the ancestors of the elves. The elves arrive on the Summerset Isles. They eventually expand onto mainland Tamriel, meeting the aboriginal Argonians and Khajiits, and displacing the native humans. The elves that remain on the Summerset Isles became the Altmer, or High Elves. Those that settle on the mainland diverged into many different other types of elves. Eventually, more humans arrive on Tamriel. Those arriving from the north settle in Skyrim, displacing the local snow elves. They become the Nords. The Merethic Era ends and the First Era begins. During the First Era, the main playable races are established. The Ayleids are overthrown in the slave revolt, and their liberated human slaves become the Imperials. The ancestors of the Redguards arrive from the west and settle in Hammerfell. In Morrowind, the Chimera and Dwarves come into conflict. The Dwarves, or Dwemer, concern themselves with science and technology, while their neighbors, the Chimera, were more focused on worship of the gods. The Chimera learned that the Dwemer were constructing their own brass god, powered by the heart of Lorkhan. Their disagreements led to the War of the First Council, and culminated in the Battle of Red Mountain. 5 Chimera, led by Lord Nerevar, went to confront the Dwarves at Red Mountain. The Dwarves, after losing their king, turned their profane tools on the heart in desperation. Due to its divine nature, their entire race mysteriously disappeared. Lord Nerevar decided to consult with the others on what to do with the heart, and left the tools in Vorin Dagoth's possession. He later returned and decided that both the heart and the tools should be destroyed. There are various accounts of what happened next, but when the dust settled, Vorin Dagoth was presumed dead and Lord Nerevar lay dying. The other 3 now had full access to the tools and the heart. Tapping into its divine nature, they became the living gods of the Tribunal. Seeing this, Azura, a Daedric prince, cursed the Chimera, turning their skin grey into the Dark Elves. Now all of the playable races are on the scene. The culminating events of the First Era involved the Second Empire. It was founded by Riemann Cyrodiil. It was established when he raised armies to confront a foreign invasion. When he was confronted at the Battle of Pale Pass, his enemies surrendered and swore loyalty to him. They became the precursor to the Blades, an imperial spy network. When the last of the Riemann dynasty dies, the Second Era is proclaimed. After the decline of the Second Empire, the events of the Elder Scrolls Online take place. After this, Tiber Septim fills the power vacuum and reunites Tamriel under the Third Empire. Morrowind is incorporated into the Empire with unique autonomy in exchange for the Numidium. However, the Tribunal does not give over the heart of Lorkhan, as it is the source of their divinity. Tiber Septim finds alternate methods to power his giant death robot and finishes conquering Tamriel. The Third Era is proclaimed by Emperor Tiber Septim upon conquering all of Tamriel. After his death, he is worshipped as a god and becomes the 9th divine. After a long line of Septim emperors, Uriel Septim VII sits on the throne.
I am your emperor, Uriel Septim.
During the events of the Elder Scrolls I arena, he is betrayed by his battle mage Yeager Tharn. The emperor is imprisoned and Yeager Tharn disguises himself as the emperor. The player collects the pieces of the Staff of Chaos, defeats Yeager Tharn, and frees the emperor. All's well that ends well. Next, the events of the Elder Scrolls II Daggerfall takes place. The emperor sends the player, the agent, to the Iliac Bay to take care of a ghost problem and dispose of a letter. The letter leads to a political entanglement in which the player finds himself handing over the Numidium to one of 7 factions. After the game ends, all factions get what they want, known as the Miracle of Peace or the Warp in the West. Following this, the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind takes place. In the previous confrontation in Red Mountain, Vorin Dagoth was presumed dead, but he has now returned.
I'm a god. How can you kill a god?
He taps into the divine power of the Heart of Lorkhan and becomes Dagoth-Ur. He intends to destroy imperial and tribunal power and to be worshipped as a god. The Emperor sends a player to Morrowind, and the player is declared the Nerevarine, a reincarnation of Lord Nerevar. After a series of trials, the Nerevarine defeats Dagoth-Ur and destroys the Heart of Lorkhan. The final game of the Third Era is the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion. The Emperor from all those previous games, Emperor Uriel VII, is assassinated by Daedric cultists.
I go to my grave.
They open Oblivion gates across the land, allowing Daedra to invade Tamriel. The player, the hero of Kvatch, finds the Emperor's final heir, and with his sacrifice ends the Oblivion crisis. The end of the Oblivion crisis marks the start of the Fourth Era. With no line of succession, the Empire falls into chaos. A series of crises allow several provinces to break away. Some of these form the Aldmeri Dominion. An emperor eventually ascends to the throne, but the empire itself is fractured. The Aldmeri Dominion declares war on the empire, which ends in a humiliating peace treaty, the White Gold Concordat. Notably, it disbanded the Blades and outlawed the worship of Talos. After the death of Tiber Septim and his subsequent divinity, many people took to worshipping him as Talos. Obviously, the elves did not like the worship of a human god, much less the worship of a human who had once conquered their homeland. The disagreement over the ban leads to a civil war in Skyrim, fulfilling the prophecy of the Dragonborn. In the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, Alduin the World Eater threatens the end of the world. The player becomes the last Dragonborn, a hero who learns the dragon language and banishes Alduin to the end of time. And so ends the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim in the current history of Tamriel. We all patiently await the next entry in the series to progress history forward. Thank you for watching.